being able to be used by God. Can you imagine Whitney Houston in a revival? Let us sing and then you just fall out on the floor. You know, do you imagine the number of people she could reach? And I could name some other people. You know, I saw Michael Jackson have people, all he did was show up. Didn't do nothing.
Right.
But just get out of a car.
Right.
And people start passing out.
They got to call the ambulance.
They carrying them over the crowd, fanning them. Oh my God, he's here!
Right.
People stood outside in the heat, in the rain, in whatever else you got, and wait for hours at the chance that they might see him.
Yep. Yes, sir, they did.
Now,
Great example.
what if Michael Jackson tells the 100,000 people that's standing there, Jesus is Lord? Just imagine what that looks like.
Yeah.
Just because Michael Jackson said it, half the people want to hear it, want to believe it, want to accept it. Just because Michael Jackson said it. If nothing else, they heard it because they came to see Michael Jackson and he said it.
Yes.
But does everything else that he does hinder him from being more effective to be used by God? Now, we don't have the same following that Michael Jackson had, but somebody's following you.
Amen. That's right. That's right.
And God wants to use you to scale the same way he wants to use Michael Jackson. So will you say Jesus is Lord?
Amen.
So that your audience can hear it? Will you represent it in your daily life? Will you do it as a lifestyle? Or is it just depend on which day you catch me?
What mood, I mean.
See what I'm saying? Tough out here. All right, so that leads us to the ministry of Adam. And we found out that all Adam did was what?
What part of what he did?
What was his?
Introduce sin.
He brought sin and death
Oh,
into the earth. I mean, he effectively did it.
yeah.
God made him perfect. God put him in the garden, perfect. God put the tree over there, perfect. God put the serpent over there, perfect. Knowing that he was going to listen to that woman and eat the fruit. Perfectly. And he did it exactly like God knew he would. That's how you know that God is God, when you do exactly what God knew you was going to do. And he found himself out the garden perfectly. Found himself wearing wool skin perfectly.
See, yes,
Found himself work chopping cotton perfectly. Just the work. His wife found herself having pain in childbirth perfectly, right according to the plan of God. Right according to the plan of God, that God used him as the instrument that brought sin and death into the earth, so that you don't have to depend on you getting it right.
right now.
And you're not hindered by you getting it wrong. Because if everybody did it on their own merit, then God would have to measure whether or not I was good enough
Right.
to get into heaven.
Right.
I'm going to go on the record right now and say, I am not good enough to get into heaven. If I got to get into heaven on my own merit, I might as well go to the club tonight. Because I'm definitely going to miss heaven. And you too. So God is smarter than us. He didn't make the deal on whether or not we were good enough. It made it on whether or not he was good enough. And then he put his goodness on us and took our badness and put it on him.
Oh, yes, he did. Bless his name.
But it's a fair exchange.
Thank you, Jesus.
It's a fair exchange because you didn't earn the sin nature.
All right.
So since you didn't earn the sin nature, you don't have to earn righteousness.
Yes. Thank you, Lord.
You inherited the sin nature and you inherited righteousness.
All right.
The sin nature came from the first Adam. Righteousness came from the second Adam, who is, what's his name?
Jesus.
Say it again.
Of Jesus.
So because Jesus did an effective job at his job and Adam did an effective job at his job, we can be saved. If Adam's ministry was not complete, then salvation wouldn't work. Salvation wouldn't work if Adam never sinned. They just say, y'all need to be good like Adam. Adam was good enough. Why can't you be good enough? I don't know what the qualifications was. Have you all ever heard of Enoch?
Yes.
Amen. Who was Enoch?
The man that walked with God.
Enoch was the man that was walking around and then all of a sudden he was gone to heaven.
Oof. Oof, oof.
I don't know what the qualifications are. That you can be so holy on earth that you just walk around and then you ain't here. Where he go? He gone to heaven. I don't know how that worked, but I know I didn't. I know I was walking with God last week. And he ain't just swooshed me out. So it's something different between me and Enoch. And everybody else in the Bible.
For sure.
You understand what I'm saying? But whatever the case, that's between him and God.
Right.
We trying to follow the plan of salvation that says that if I accept Jesus Christ, he died for me. And I can go to heaven, which is where I want to go. And it wasn't going to work using my own abilities. It ain't going to work for you using your own abilities. Let me take a time out right here and say this. One of the hardest things, my friend back there, what's your name? Right there behind, yes ma'am.
My name is Montana.
Exactly. Montana, you know one of the hardest things for people in church to get, we ain't good enough. And even the ones of us that sit in the front, not you, I'm just saying. Oh, some of us that sit in the front and act like we're good, the truth of the matter is that we know that we're not good enough. And we struggle with trying to be good enough rather than allowing Jesus to be good enough. If we would allow him to be enough, have you ever seen somebody that tried to make somebody like them?
Oh.
And they get on your nerves?
Oh.
Because they're trying so hard to make you like them, and it's like, if you would just chill out. I already like you, but right now you're on my nerves because you're trying so hard to make me like you when all you had to do was just be you. And that's the thing that God is trying to get us to do, is just be the you that you are, because he already likes you. He already likes the you that you are. Well, Cannon, wait a minute. Now, you don't know what I did last night. But he knows what you did last night. And in spite of knowing what you did last night, he still likes you. He likes you enough to die for you. He thought you was to die for him. Knowing you before you knew you. He thought you was good enough to die for him, and now you're trying to earn his love.
Yeah.
And if you would just chill, I mean, you could really enjoy this relationship if you would just chill out and enjoy the relationship. Isn't that something? Like, Sister Boone, how long you been married?
56 years.
You're figuring it out, huh? That's a good place to clap right there. 56 years. Amen. Now, imagine Sister Boone, she's been married to the same fellow for 56 years. They've been going to bed, waking up in the same place for 56 years. And then, and imagine she go home tonight and say, I really wish you would like me.
Wow. Wow.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. Ain't nobody staying with nobody for 56 years.
That's right.
You understand what I'm trying to say? I mean, I might not like some of the things that you do sometime, but somewhere around 36, I'm gonna find something else to do. If it's only so long I can just fake it that I like you when I know I don't like you. But that's what we look like to God. Here God has been with you all this time. He knew you before you knew you. He's been working on you before you knew he was working on you. He was loving you before you was born. He had a plan for you before earth. And now you're trying to convince him to like you. You see how not smart we sound when we do that? And so Adam perfectly did his job. He did that thing where he was fruitful and multiplied and replenished the earth, right? Right. So now today, in my last 5 minutes, amen, we're going on to the ministry of Abraham. Ministry of Abraham. Now what you know about Abraham is he had many sons. And many sons had Father Abraham. I'm one. And so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right, Lord. You don't know that song?
I said you told me about.
Oh, I'm asking Brenda. She don't know that song.
Yeah, my children in the daycare. I was children sing.
All right, that's right. I thought so. All right. So Father Abraham and his sons. Abraham's purpose and calling was to recover man from the sinful situation. Adam's job was to bring sin. Abraham's job was to recover man from the sinful situation. Adam brought sin. Abraham's job was to bring man out of sin. Interesting, huh?
Yes.
Given that he ain't Jesus at all. He was being chosen by God for the purpose of recovering man from his sinful situation. So what did God tell him to do? He had this predestined plan and purpose for Abram, and here was the solution. He said, Genesis chapter 12. You always got a Bible, get that. Genesis chapter 12. He had this plan to get man out of the situation that Adam brought man into. Bible trivia, what happened between Adam bringing him into sin and Abraham bringing him out? Another major incident in your history. Adam got kicked out the garden. And then something happened, and then here's Abraham around Genesis 12. Something happened in between there. What happened? Say it. Who's the person you said? Noah, right? And Noah was there for the flood, right? Exactly, the flood, and he built right, and so God killed all of the people and everything that was on the earth. How many of them?
Everything except his family and the ants. Okay, exactly.
Only on the west side. How many of the people? Huh?
Noah and his sons.
How many of the people did God kill?
All of them.
Except for Noah's family.
All everywhere. Asian people,
Everybody.
African people,
Everybody. Japanese.
European people, white people, black people, red and yellow. All of them died in the water at the same time, except Noah and his boys and the girls and the animals. So what you're telling me then is, unlike Adam, every man on earth came from Noah.
Wait a minute, you say say that one more
Yeah,
time.
I'm waiting for y'all to come on back with me.
Yeah, say that one more time.
We said last week, Adam, there was Adam in the first chapter, mankind. Everybody all over the earth. Then there was Adam the person. Second chapter, right? We know who he is. That's the one that got kicked out of the garden. Him. And then down the descendants came Noah, who was a son of Adam, the one man. Because all the other man died in the flood. Good, ask that question again. So we remember Adam, the one man, and he had the wife Eve, and they ate the fruit, and they got kicked out of the garden. But we already know that when that was happening, it was people all around the world at the same time. But we're following the Adam family, and Seth, and Methuselah, and all of them that came down to Noah, right? Was a descendant of Adam.
Okay, Noah descendant of Adam. Okay.
And then God killed everybody else. So that means that the only people that was left on earth was the descendants of Noah. Because even Noah's sons, who had the wives, was fruitful and multiplied, and the children that they had was the descendants of Noah. So they would inherit.
Same as Adam, though, right?
Same as Adam.
Yeah, okay.
So they would inherit the sin nature from Adam through Noah to their children.
Right.
So now everybody at the Noah stage of the Bible is a descendant of Adam. But prior to the flood, there was all type of people around. I got a few three-headed looks.
Okay, say it again.
At the Noah stage, everybody after the flood that's living is a descendant of Noah, who is a descendant of Adam, because everybody else died in the flood. That was God's reset button. And I'm going to start over with Noah and his folks. And they was fruitful and multiplied and replenished the earth. Then come on down, and now you got Abraham. So now Noah becomes the new Adam, and then Abraham's job is now to deliver us from the sinful situation that we came into. All right, so now here's Abraham. One of the strangely, I'm going kind of deep water here, so I'm trying to take my time. Strangely, even after the flood, you had people worshiping idol gods. That would still have been descendants of Noah. But they was worshiping idol gods, including Abraham. So when God brings Abraham into the picture, then God goes to Abraham and says in Genesis chapter 12, he said, now get out of your country and from thy kinfolk, and from your father's house, and go into a land that I will show thee. Right?
Right.
God called Abraham with the purpose that he would get out of his country, away from his people, out of his father's house, and get him to a new place. So he had to separate him from what they were doing, because his father and them was worshiping idols.
Right.
But Jehovah God comes and says, no, worship me, follow me, and go to this other place that I'm going to show you. Sanctified him. God sanctified him. And then he said, I'm going to make of you a great nation. Is that right? First he sanctified him. Then he said, now I'm going to make you a great nation. At this time, he's 75 years old. You done got to be 75. Now I'm going to sanctify you and make of you a great nation. And then all the people of the world are going to be blessed through you. And I'm going to bless those that bless you. And I'm going to curse those that curse you. And all the people of the world are going to be blessed. How? Through you. I'm going to make of you a great nation. Is that right? Y'all got 12?
Yes.
What does it say?
Which verse?
Starting at the first.
The chapter 20.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the Lord had said
Uh-huh.
unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, from which thy father's house, unto a land that I will assure thee. I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curses thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed.
All right, that's good right there. So his goal was that he was going to bless all the families of the world through Abraham. Because he had many sons. Okay, I ain't going to do that. He was 75, he didn't have no sons.
Right. Good.
It took him 20-something years later before he finally got his wife pregnant. Then he finally had one son by this other woman. And him and this other woman had a son, and God said, you did good. You had a son, but that's not the promise. The promise I made is that all the nations of the world would be blessed through you. But through the covenant of your marriage with your wife, not this other woman. Then God gave him an and one. He said, now I'm going to bless them because they are a part of you. So through you, they received a blessing, even though they're not the blessing. Do you see how God do?
Yes.
So now I'm going to back up. Everybody still with me? Because we got to go home. All right. Adam had the ministry of bringing sin and death to mankind. All of them. Through the one man, Adam, he brought sin. Noah brought life to all mankind. Through the one man, Noah, the whole world was replenished. Abraham brought the blessing. Through him, the one man, Abraham, all families of the earth would be blessed. Through him. And I'm going to bless those that bless you, and I'm going to curse those that curse you, and all of that. Through who? Through Abraham. Is that right? Who is the blessing of Abraham?
Jesus.
Say it.
Jesus.
Jesus is the blessing of Abraham. Through him, all families will be blessed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All people will, that's where my covenant is, through him. But it came through Abraham, that it came through Isaac, that it came through Jacob, that it came down through Joseph, that it came down through 42 generations, down from David, all the way down to Jesus, to establish the covenant that God made with Abraham way back here in the 12th chapter. So the blessing came through Abraham, even though Jesus brought salvation. The blessing came through, come on, let's say, the blessing came through
Abraham.
So his ministry was to birth the blessing into the earth. He brought the blessing. God's covenant is with Abraham. I'm telling you, I'm going to bless those that bless you. I'm telling you, I'm going to curse those that curse you. And if you follow Abraham's life, even right here, if you read on further in that 12th chapter, right after he got all this here blessing, he went right on down to Egypt because there was a famine in the land. And he went right on down to Egypt and took his wife down there. And then he said, now look, you're a good looking woman. And when we get down here, these men is going to be trying to talk to you. He said, so if any of them men try to talk to him, you just tell them you my sister.
Which was a partial truth too.
Yeah, but not.
Yeah.
Yes. That ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work in the counseling. That ain't gonna work. Amen. And so right here, the blessing ain't even dry yet, and he's already beginning to compromise. Why are we going through all of this, Pastor Cannon? Because what we want to do is find biblical purpose in me. See, sometimes we forfeit ourselves because we see the failures, quote unquote, in us, but we don't see how God is still using us in spite of the failures in us. God brought the whole covenant blessing through a man that wouldn't even claim his wife.
So somebody that wouldn't claim their wife. What you mean?
Abraham.
What you mean?
He went down there and told the one folks that was his sister.
Oh, that when he did that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Twice.
Twice. 2 times.
You understand? And then God said, that's cool, but I'm still going to give you a son. Woo! See, I'm preaching much better than reacting, because sometimes the son represents the blessing. Hallelujah. The son represents the blessing for the father because it represents posterity of your family line. And then it represents a blessing for the mother because it means that she's able to produce. So it's a curse to not produce a son, and it's a curse to not be able to produce. They look at that woman and say, what's wrong with you? You can't give him one.
Right.
Right? And she say, I'm trying to give him one. I'm trying to give him one. Here, Hagar, give him one. And how much worse do you feel when this other slave woman can give him what you can't give him?
Right. That's fine.
Now you're rolling your eyes at the slave woman. She's not a good stepmother. You know? She's not a good stepmother, right? All of that stuff. So now you're mad, but you don't understand that you were trying to compromise the covenant. However, while she was trying to give the promise away,
That's good.
just take the promise and give it to Hagar. Let Abraham start agreeing. Let Ishmael be good enough.
Right.
Let Ishmael be good enough. You trying to give the promise away, and then God doesn't forsake you, even though you were trying. God was watching your back when you was checked out.
Right. That's
I know you gave him the Ishmael thing, but look,